Iranians are voting in a runoff presidential election to replace the late Ebrahim Raisi, who was killed in a helicopter crash in May. Voters have a choice between the reformist candidate, Masoud Pezeshkian, who has called for improved relations with the U.S. and relaxing internet restrictions, and hardliner Saeed Jalili. Now, he's an ultra-conservative, former nuclear negotiator who has promised economic growth and restrictions on women's rights. First-round turnout was the lowest in the Islamic Republic's history. Well, for more now from Washington, I'm joined by Behnam Ben Talibou. He's a senior fellow at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, focusing on Iran and the Middle East. It's good to have you with us. I guess people looking at this from the outside are wondering, how did a relatively unknown reformist end up leading this race?
Well, it's a pleasure to be with you. It's no secret that elections in Iran, or shall we say selections, are neither free nor fair, and they're highly orchestrated. And this special runoff is reminding me a great deal of 2005, the last time you had a runoff deliver a hardliner into the presidency. And that's how Ahmadinejad entered the presidency in 2005. The regime is hoping that the prospect of a contrast, admittedly a very, very, very minor contrast, because as you know, yesterday's insider is today's regime outsider. So the fact that someone like Pezeshkian could make it through all of these different qualifying rounds tells you that the supreme leader does have a fair amount of trust in him. And in this sense, some may try to use the prospect of a Jalili candidacy to get a somewhat higher turnout, admittedly still low, but get a somewhat higher turnout, and then pivot and still use that to orchestrate a Jalili engineered election anyway.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the turnout. In the first round of voting, it hit a record low, and we know that the supreme leader, he wanted the opposite of that to happen. Have they given up on their political system? I mean, do they not see either of the candidates as being really legitimate?
Yeah, you certainly don't have to take it from me. Starting in 2018 and continuing into multiple rounds of nationwide protests into the president, one slogan that you hear is reformist, principlist, the jig is up, or reformist, principlist, the game is over. So there's really a pushing away from the ballot box and the embrace of street protests as a potential vector of not just change, but as a potential vector to contest everything that the state is doing. So society is taking to the street rather than the ballot box. And that trend line is yielding one thing, meaning the more you have street protests grow in demographic and geographic diversity, the less and less and less turnout you're having. And you saw that with parliamentary elections, presidential elections, and you'll continue to see that.
What about foreign policy here? How is this election likely to impact Iran in the outer world? And I'm thinking about Israel and also Russia.
Certainly the foreign and security policy, shall we say, of the Islamic Republic of Iran is not controlled by the Iranian president. At best, he will have a stylistic rather than substantive impact on Iranian foreign and security policy. But sometimes, as you know, style can have a substance on its own. And what that may mean here is not for the post-October 7 Middle East and the Iranian support to proxies in multiple jurisdictions that are conflict zones today. That stuff, I think, will be all else equal. But in reality, the only place I could really see this having some kind of impact is if the supreme leader of Iran, which is a title meant to be taken rather literally, wants to use the prospect of a slightly different person at the helm to wink, wink, nudge, nudge, do some kind of nuclear diplomacy with America, or use someone else to continue to contract the system and be much more overt about the direction it wants to go in.
Behnam Ben Talibou of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, we appreciate your time and your analysis tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.